They laughed at her tattoo, whispering it was shameful, until a stranger in a crisp suit rose from his seat. He unbuttoned his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and the room fell silent. What he revealed changed everything, and no one in that coffee shop would ever forget it. Asterisk. The watch had stopped the night her father left. Its hands were frozen at 11:47, the ticks silenced forever. Amelia still wore it, the cracked glass biting into her skin. It reminded her that time could break, and so could people. She lived in a small town where everyone knew everyone, or thought they did. The dusty road to the bus station still carried the echo of gossip, and Amelia had learned to walk with her head down. She didn't care about whispers until the day she returned with a tattoo. The ink was bold, a hand reaching toward a dove drawn across her shoulder blade, with words below it in Arabic and English, "For the innocent." She had gotten it in a run-down shop far from home, the needle buzzing while the world outside kept rushing. She hadn't told anyone why. She hadn't told them about the girl she had once tried to protect, or the screams she still heard at night. At first, the town didn't notice. She wore jackets, long sleeves, but autumn came warmer than usual. On one October morning, Amelia entered the local café in a tank top. The tattoo showed itself to strangers. The café smelled of burnt beans and sugar syrup. Laughter rattled off the windows. She carried an empty wallet in her pocket, heavy only with folded receipts. She couldn't afford much beyond plain black coffee. She found a corner seat and pulled out a history book. Tracing lines with her finger, the voices rose before she turned the page. 3 women in pressed dresses sat close enough to be heard. Their bracelets clinked with every judgment. "What kind of girl tattoos foreign writing on her skin?" one sneered. "It's probably something filthy, gang-related," another said. Amelia tightened her grip on the mug. Her reflection in the dark liquid looked tired. She thought of leaving, but her feet refused to move. She remembered enemy fire, broken walls, and a child's hand slipping from hers. This tattoo was not decoration. It was survival carved into skin. But the cafe roared with laughter. Nobody spoke for her. Not the old man at the counter. Not the students tapping at keyboards. Not even the owner, Mrs. Chen, though her eyes flickered with sympathy. Amelia felt the same loneliness she had felt that night overseas when radio silence had nearly cost them all. The broken watch on her wrist dug deeper into her skin. The hands of time refused to move, and neither could she. Then the bell over the cafe door rang. A man entered, tall, sharp suit, shoes shining even against the dusty floor. He moved with quiet certainty, the way soldiers moved in zones where hesitation meant death. Amelia knew it instantly. Her heart pounded. He glanced at her tattoo once, and she swore he recognized it. But he said nothing. He only ordered black coffee, and that silence was somehow worse. Amelia lowered her eyes, unaware that the stranger's jacket sleeve had slipped, revealing the edge of his own tattoo. Amelia thought she could endure the whispers. She had endured worse blistered feet on desert sand, nights without sleep, and the crushing silence of waiting for orders. But whispers in a cafe cut deeper, because they came from people who never risked anything. The women grew louder. "They think they're brave," one said, sipping foam, marking themselves up like savages. "Probably doesn't even have a job," added another. "Living off handouts. Pitiful." The words wrapped around Amelia like chains. She looked at her wallet, lying on the table beside her coffee cup. The leather was worn thin, stitched corners peeling. She opened it. Only receipts. No bills. No coins. A soldier turned into a stranger at home. She thought of walking out, but that would mean surrender. And surrender wasn't in her blood. The man in the suit sat near the center of the room. His posture was alert but calm. When he reached for his cup, his sleeve shifted again. A glimpse of ink curled up his wrist, sharp lines, precise, not the kind drawn in a careless shop. Amelia's breath caught. He knew. Whoever he was, he knew. But he didn't move. Not yet. The women's laughter rose like smoke, choking the air. Foreign letters. One hissed, "Un-American, dangerous." Other customers shifted uncomfortably, but nobody spoke. Amelia gripped her watch. Its hand still pointed to 11:47. She wanted to smash it against the table, to break something that was already broken. Mrs. Chen met her eyes from behind the counter, worry etched in her face. But she stayed silent. Amelia stood halfway, ready to leave. Her wallet slipped from her fingers, hitting the floor with a hollow thud. Everyone looked. The sound was louder than the laughter, and that was when the man finally rose. He stood, slow and deliberate, and the entire cafe froze, as if waiting for orders that had not yet been spoken. He moved like dust, carried by the desert wind, quiet, but inevitable. The cafe seemed smaller with him standing there, his presence stretching into every corner. "Excuse me, ladies," his voice cut through the air, low but commanding. "I couldn't help but overhear your comments about that young woman's tattoo." All three women stiffened. Their laughter shrank into silence. "This is a private conversation," one snapped. He smiled, not friendly, controlled, like a commander hiding steel behind courtesy. "Then, perhaps you should have kept it private. Instead, you let the whole cafe listen." He turned slightly, sweeping the room with his eyes. Every head nodded, every gaze fixed on him. Amelia sat still, the broken watch heavy on her wrist. She traced its cracked glass, waiting. "You made assumptions," the man continued, "based on something you don't understand. Do you even know what her tattoo says?" The women exchanged looks, their lips pressed thin. No answers. He rolled up his sleeves. Ink sprawled across his arms, not wild, but ordered. Coordinates, insignias, names, each line carved from memory, not fashion. One tattoo stood out, a helmet resting on a rifle, dog tags hanging like prayers. Around it, words in several languages. At the bottom, "Never forgotten." Gasps rippled through the cafe. Amelia's throat tightened. She knew what it meant. The man turned back to the women. "Her tattoo says for the innocent, Arabic and English, a phrase chosen by those who've walked roads where children cry among ruins, where innocence dies in silence." She carries that reminder, not for decoration, but for honor. The dusty road stretched again in Amelia's mind. She remembered the day a child's hand slipped from hers, leaving only dust and echoes. Silence filled the cafe, but silence never lasts. Mrs. Henderson, the boldest of the three, whispered, "How do you know?" The man reached into his pocket and held up a wallet not empty like Amelia's, but heavy with weight. That wasn't money. His ID gleamed. Colonel James Morrison, United States Marine Corps, retired. He looked straight at Amelia and asked, "Where did you serve?" Asterisk. Her mouth went dry. The question wasn't simple. It carried weight. "Kandahar," she finally whispered. "Second Division. Communications." The colonel's eyes softened. He gave a slow nod. "Then you've seen it." The cafe listened, caught in the current of his words. He turned back to the women. "She's carried radios through fire, while others hid behind walls. She's held lines together when towers fell, and you dare call her un-American." The women wilted. Their bracelets no longer clinked. One dabbed her eyes with a napkin. The colonel's voice sharpened. "You judged her while sipping lattes on a quiet street. She fought for freedoms you used to mock her. That's the weight of your words." Amelia's hands shook. She covered them with her empty wallet, hiding the tremor. She wanted to vanish, yet also wanted to stand taller. Then something strange happened. The old man with the newspaper removed his cap, a gesture of respect. Students stopped typing, eyes shining. Even Mrs. Chen wiped her cheeks with her apron. But the colonel wasn't done. He rolled down his sleeves, slipped his jacket back on, then turned once more. His voice was low, but edged with fire. "You think tattoos are shame? I have 17. Each one is a grave, a memory, a promise. Do I look like a man without honor? The cafe was silent, and Amelia's watch ticked once. She froze. She hadn't heard it tick in years. She looked down. The hands of the broken watch had moved, if only for a second. Her heart stumbled. The watch had shifted back to silence, but she had heard it. A tick against all odds. A reminder that broken things could breathe again. The colonel faced her. His eyes were steady, kind now. Your tattoo tells me more about you than their laughter ever could. Amelia's throat burned. For months she had carried silence heavier than any pack. Now, strangers knew pieces of her story without her speaking. The women trembled under the weight of shame. Mrs. Henderson whispered, We didn't know. No, the colonel said, firm but not cruel. You didn't care to know. Amelia rose. The café's wooden floor creaked beneath her boots. She picked up her wallet and slid it into her pocket. Then she walked toward the women. The air was thick. Every eye followed her. She stopped at their table. You said I was pitiful, she said, voice calm. But pity is sitting safe and mocking what you don't understand. I'll accept your apology if you mean it, but I won't carry your words anymore. Tears welled in their eyes. They nodded, whispering sorry. Amelia turned away. She thought of the dusty road where promises had died, the empty wallet that had mocked her poverty, the broken watch that had just ticked. Maybe time was moving again. She sat back down. The colonel joined her. You handled that with dignity, he said. Amelia gave a thin smile, felt more like trembling.